The Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine appears to be heating up. Off the coast of Venezuela, Venezuelan tanker that was heading to Cuba with about $60 million US dollars roughly of oil. Venezuela lambasted this move, saying that they will not allow foreign power to attempt to seize from the Venezuelan people what belongs to them from historical and constitutional rights, and condemned the act. And it wasn't the first time that this has been raised, as Donald Trump in 2024 said conflict with Venezuela was about the oil. And here was Trump's reaction to reporters asking about this act of piracy.
What happens to the oil on that ship?
Well, we keep it, I guess.
Where does it go? What port does it go to?
Well, you have to follow the tanker. You know, you're a good newsman. Just follow the tanker.
Do you know where it's going?
Follow it. Get a helicopter and follow the tanker.
Is it true it's going to?
But we're gonna. I assume we're gonna keep the.
This comes within the context of the Hegseth war crimes probe, whatever wherever it is now in that saga, as well as, of course, the threat of regime change in Venezuela.
Well, I mean, first of all, let's just call what happened by its real name. It's piracy. So the United States is now a pirate nation. Yay. Because there's no legal justification for what the United States did. Even under U.S. law, it's, they say that it was FBI agents that carried out this raid as though this was some sort of law enforcement action. It's an act of piracy, straight up. And it feeds into a broader narrative of the illegality of the American posture, the illegality of the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. It's fundamentally at odds with international law, but Trump doesn't care. But more critically, much of what the United States is doing and perhaps is planning to do vis-a-vis Venezuela and its neighbors is a violation of American law and the law of war. We had this September 2nd incident where, we struck a boat after Pete Hegseth apparently gave an order to kill them all. And remember, people say, come on, Scott, did he really say it? Guys, you do listen to him, don't you? I mean, you did read or hear his statement before the 800 officers at Quantico about maximum lethality. We don't do silly rules of engagement anymore. No. Those silly rules of engagement out the window. We're about maximum lethality. And then, he has given subsequent speeches where he basically says our goal is to kill everybody. And so it's not unrealistic to believe, as some people have said, that he gave orders that matched the president's own rhetoric. The president has been on record talking about killing them all. I just want to remind people, I voted for this crowd. Who gives a damn? No one cares what you voted for. You can't vote for illegality. No amount of votes can change the fact that what's being done is illegal. For those who say they're drug traffickers, we got a lot of drug traffickers here in the United States. They drive up and down the I-95 corridor, and there's other corridors out there. So you're saying that the State Department, if they get a good tip-off that there's cocaine in that Porsche, you just gun them down. Don't even have to try and stop them. Just shoot them up. And if they come crawling out of the car, waving their hands, just kill them, execute them, walk up and pop them in the head because they're drug dealers. They don't have any rights. Do you understand the stupidity of your argument right now? Also, you need to understand that under the Department of Defense Law Warfare Manual, shipwreck status is quite clearly defined. And those two survivors were shipwrecked in every meaning of the word. And we murdered them. We killed them. That's a violation of the law of war. It's illegal to give an order to take no prisoners. That's a violation. And it's illegal to double tap survivors of shipwrecks. They're out of the fight. And so what's happened here is that the military is starting to ask questions. The commander of Southern Command, an admiral who, normally it's a 3-year position, less than a year out, I heard someone say, I disagree on drug boats. I don't really give a rat's ass what you disagree with because your stupidity shines through everything you do. Know the law before you open your mouth. I don't care what your opinion is. No one cares what your opinion is. Nobody in the military cares what your opinion is because your opinion doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the law, and the law is quite clear. And what's happened here is that the president is telling the military to do things that are patently illegal. And it's causing a lot of problems in the military. Admiral Bradley's in a lot of trouble right now because he violated the law of war. He should be court-martialed. And just so you understand, this isn't a minor violation. This isn't a technicality. The United States Congress has passed a War Crimes Act, I think in 1996. And it clearly states in the War Crimes Act that any major or grave violation of the Geneva Conventions, the international law of war, that is the premise of the Department of Defense Law of War Manual. So any violation, gross violation, is punishable by life imprisonment or death. We're not playing games here. This is how serious this should be taken. So for a simple civilian to sit and say, I voted for this, I don't care about drug boats, kill them all. No one really cares what you think. The military has to do what is required by law. And right now we have a lot of military people saying, we're not comfortable with this. And so even though Pete Hegseth has announced the initiation of Operation, I think it's a Southern Spear, the largest military operation in the Caribbean in years, the Gerald Ford and everything else is out there. Notice they're not shooting up as many boats as they used to. Notice they're not doing much of anything because the military is starting to question everything. All the things, for instance, we can read into this. You got to ask yourself why Bradley was the guy running the operation. Why is JSOC, because he was the head of the Joint Special Operations Command, why is JSOC running this operation? Because nobody else would. But another reason why is the sources intelligence methods that are used. The Navy SEALs have a squadron called Black Squadron. It's their intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance squadron. You notice that the president and everybody else says, we know what's on that boat. There's no question about it. I believe them. I believe they know exactly what's on that boat because I believe Black Squadron is on the ground in Venezuela doing their job. And they are getting the hard intelligence about who's on that boat, what's on that boat. I'm not debating, I, for one, am not somebody running out there going, they're fishing boats, they're fishing boats. No, I think they're drug boats. I think they're drug boats. We know the names of the people on board and we know the content because we have photographs of it. Black Squadron probably has taken samples of the drug, so they have irrefutable evidence that there is narcotic material there, photographs of the people on it, trackers on the boat, and then they flight out there and the Navy, I forget the name of the drone they use, but that drone picks it up. It has a laser designator, and they designate the boat, and a helicopter or some other platform fires a standoff hellfire and comes in and blows the boat up. Simple, except you can't kill these people. They've committed no crime worthy of that. Even though you have that intelligence on its own doesn't allow you to kill. That intelligence allows you to detain. There still is due process that has to occur under law. And what the military has been told to do is violate due process, go straight in, get to the kill chain. And even when you kill, to kill them all. These are war crimes. And the military is starting to say, we're not so thrilled about half this stuff. And I think you're seeing a chilling impact on the U.S. military's ability to carry out Donald Trump's plans regarding Venezuela. That doesn't mean that it won't happen. It just means that I think they're going to have to take a different tact because at the end of the day, the majority of the military people take their oath to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, very seriously. They've all been schooled on the law of war, and they all understand their obligations when confronted with a patently illegal order. And now, I think now that somebody like Bradley is being put under the spotlight, more and more military people are saying, time out. I need a JAG review in writing, JAG being the judge advocate. I need a JAG review in writing, and then I'm going to voice my disagreement in writing. Now you've got a record, and no commander wants to deal with that kind of nonsense. And so there's a chilling impact right now on what's going on militarily against Venezuela.
And then you have reports like this, where something like this seized tanker is just normal, according to the think tankistan mouthpieces of the neocons.
A tanker. How Could this escalate the conflict with Venezuela?
Well, we've had sanctions on Venezuelan oil since the first Trump administration. And
Biden kept them.
Kept them.
Yeah.
So to me, this is absolutely normal. I mean,
seizing an oil tanker?
Yeah. We've been seizing Iranian oil tankers in the past. We also, according to the law that I've read, that oil is up for forfeiture. So we could keep that. We've kept Iranian oil in the past. So I actually think that this is less controversial in terms of law and sanctions and what has been, disputed or not disputed. Like, I think this is actually a pretty, check the box case. Mm-hmm. Now, what will this mean in terms of escalation? What is he going to do? What is Maduro going to do?
How to put it politely, I spoke about it for the last almost 4 years. Most people, especially the chief editors and people who basically tailor the programs in establishment media, both in the United States and Western Europe, are war criminals. And same goes for the most of the think tankdom. For example, as this lady, they are neocons, they are warmongers. Many of them have to be behind bars with their crimes against humanity and simple war crimes. They basically, they encourage them. They constantly, push that agenda. So in this case, they are no better than the Goebbelsonian propaganda ministry. And you know what happened to those people? Very many of them. They have been executed. So, and when I say this, I'm not saying this lightly. Just today, Quincy Institute, this is another think tank. Although they pretend to be the, for America first and all that, and responsible statecraft, but they published a very interesting piece that another think tank, such as the Institute for the Study of War, they really don't study war there. They don't understand it. When you look attentively at who those people are and they're bored. This is purely Kagan operation. Kimberly Kagan, it's one of those Mencken's moron with a PhD. And people like Keane and Petraeus are on the board. Suddenly they were not accused. They reported that they were basically changing maps of the operation in Ukraine, for example, and they were betting things in the, this betting, whatever casino there, because they wanted to earn money there for that, So this is everything you need to know about those people. They are ideological prostitutes, and some of them are fanatics. And when Scott described the situation from the U.S. military point of view so well that I have nothing really to add there. He knows this subject way better than me. But the point is, neocons are not good at war. They are not good at technology. These are basically people who were run through the degree mills, humanities-based, degree mills in Ivy League, and they do not understand modern war. They don't understand, for example, what could possibly be done with those 20 Su-30 MK2s, MK1s, I'm sorry, which are older but still very modern fighters, which are capable of carrying all kinds of those things like KH-31. Things like that. If God forbids something happens, there will be granted that United States will probably try to bomb the crap out of of Venezuela. But the problem is there is no chance in hell there could be any real serious ground force on the ground. And the only thing which probably will come down to is trying to regime change, which Scott correctly stated. I'm sure there's a truckload of people from the CIA and all kinds of the special forces operating there. But do not forget, there, as you correctly stated, even people who don't like Maduro, and there's certainly some categories of people who do not like Maduro, they do not listen to this newly coined idiot, four-wheel drive, who is supposedly alternative to Maduro. They don't like it either. And I can only basically report or quote Doug McGregor. And he knows way more than me in the area that actually there is around 100,000 of the Colombian militants basically parked on the border. And they are ready to go in the moment anything happens big time, especially with the force, some kind of the amphibious operation or whatever they plan. I don't know. And so it's not going to be a stroll in the park, considering the fact that, by the way, Venezuela is 3 times larger in territory than Vietnam, and it has the nightmarish terrain, and absolutely nightmarish. And so, mountains, gigantic mountains, all those bizarre, jungles, all those rivers and things of this nature. This is not an easy operation. It's not Iraq. And who knows what is happening there? There may be some other forces not aligned with the United States on the ground. I don't know. But I can only, that's my quip on this matter, because Scott obviously knows way more than me on this matter. And so I think he covered it up pretty well.
Well, Scott, given what you were saying earlier about how Hegseth's big quandary with the illegality of the boat strikes and then the seized tanker, all of this is creating a kind of momentum. But how then is this actually going to affect the regime change operation? Because on the Venezuelan side, we see a lot of enthusiasm against this kind of thing. And we also see time kind of going by. There was a lot of escalations. And then this happened. This series of events you described earlier happened. And now it's unclear how it's going to affect the operation. How do you see it affecting the operation and what actually can be done in this moment? Because when I think of a bombing campaign of a country that already has a lot of migrants coming to the United States, I think more are going to come. There's going to be more displacement, more chaos if there's a more full-on U.S. military intervention.
My opinion is we shouldn't be doing any of this with Venezuela. Maduro has come out and been quite clear that he's willing to work with the United States to ensure that Venezuelan oil will be primarily extracted, exploited by American based oil companies. I mean, so there it is. We could get all oil, but this is political. This is about Marco Rubio, who's since 2016 wanted to carry out a regime change operation in order to live up to his anti-communist legacy as a anti-Castro Cuban American. That's what this is about. This is about Donald Trump being sold a bill of goods by Rubio and others about the necessity of Fortress America, the Trump corollary. Again, you name it after Trump, that gives him feeds the narcissistic soul. And so we're headed in this direction. The U.S. military, though, again, I want to point out, Venezuela is a very large country. To carry out a strategic air campaign designed to eliminate the Maduro government's viability would take many weeks. Venezuela is bigger than Iraq. We did a strategic air campaign against Iraq that, required us to fly thousands of sorties, over a sustained period of time. There were many aircraft carriers, and there were dedicated air wings deployed to, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, etc. We've got, a couple squadrons of F-35s and, an embarked air wing on the Gerald Ford. That ain't enough aircraft, guys, to carry out a strategic air campaign. And we don't have enough cruise missiles either to do the kind of sustained strike that would be needed to, using air power alone to achieve an outcome. So the force structure that's been assembled is one that can provide a targeted strike package similar to what we did during Operation Desert Fox in December of 1998, which was a very limited duration, 72 hours, limited scope attack, taking out the security infrastructure around Saddam Hussein's Special Republican Guard, some Republican Guard, intelligence, Interior Ministry. All of these were struck by American assets in the hopes that these divisions down in Kut that the CIA had made contact with would leave their barracks and march into Baghdad through the unprotected South and take care of Saddam. But the generals that the CIA had thought they had on the payroll weren't in fact on the payroll, and the divisions didn't move and nothing happened. I bring this up to point out that what's really going on in Venezuela, the real regime change, is being done by the CIA, not by the U.S. military. U.S. military does the optical things on the periphery to generate headlines. The CIA's job is to stay out of the headlines. But, people need to remember that the CIA has a very large and robust paramilitary wing that has become even bigger and more robust because of the 20 years of global war on terror. They ran secret armies in Afghanistan. We just saw the residual impact of that when one of the Zero Fours from Kandahar, the Afghan secret commandos that fought for the CIA, went out and shot two National Guardsmen in Washington, D.C., killing one and severely wounding the second. The CIA runs secret armies. That's what they do. And I can guarantee you that the CIA is assembling a secret army right now on the periphery of Venezuela, maybe even secret armies. In 1998, I needed to do a testing inspection of presidential facilities, and we needed a lot of people on short notice. And the CIA suddenly produced an Argentinian special operations unit that suddenly were made available to come and do what I wanted them to do. It's like, wait a minute. Normally we have to write letters to the Argentinian government, the whole process. Nope, CIA just up and pop, gave me a dozen Argentinian commandos. I also got a dozen Polish commandos too. Tells you something about the CIA relationship with the Polish government. But the CIA has these relationships, and they're able to mobilize mercenary forces or rapidly. The CIA has connectivity with the Venezuelan opposition. And I know everybody's talking about, how Maduro has the support of the people. He doesn't have the support of all the people, though. There is a percentage of Venezuelans who are against him, and the CIA is exploiting them and hoping that, when the time comes, when their forces make a move, the conventional military can suppress the Venezuelan security services, neutralize Maduro, and facilitate the rapid seizure of power by these CIA forces. And that's the direction we're heading. I think we're moving for a major covert operation run by the CIA to immediately remove Maduro from power. The timing of that, I don't know. I'm not in the CIA. I'm just telling you that I know enough about how the CIA operates, having seen it firsthand, working with the paramilitaries in Iraq to do regime change operations against Saddam Hussein. Patterns repeat. They have a mode of operation that goes back to Afghanistan, which goes back to Laos, which goes back to Vietnam, which goes back to every other place in the world that they've done these things. This is what they do, and they're doing it right now in Venezuela. And I will give them a 100% chance of taking Maduro out. 100% chance. What happens after they take him out, don't know. All bets are off. But there's a 100% certainty that when they pull the trigger, Maduro will be dead or captured.
No, I generally agree with what Scott says. The only thing which is the, so to speak, a joker here, they say, there are Russians on the ground there. There are Russians on the ground there too. And believe me, they're pretty damn good, actually. So this is not as easy. But yeah, in terms of their strategy and in terms of how they probably, this is the covert operation, absolutely. This is what is happening most likely on the ground. And yes, the issue is very simple. And Scott stated, and I said, yeah, there are divisions in Venezuela. But again, who knows? Very difficult to say.
The CIA, I think Scott's 100% right. They're going to do this and try to do this. I don't know about the success rate. Who knows? I mean,
it's difficult to say.
But,
again, do not forget.
I was just going to say, in terms of the question to you, is the fallout. I mean, we're already seeing how difficult it is to build up the case for this. But what about the fallout, where you do have, basically the poor, working people? They're with Maduro. That's a lot of the population. And then you have like a third You have this very wealthy population,
Yeah.
very anti the government, but the fallout could be very devastating.
The fallout could be the civil war, and that will be pretty much it's going to spoil all those plans to have actually development of the oil for the United States, which Maduro, as Scott correctly stated, Maduro essentially agreed that, hey, we can let you do thing, nothing wrong with that. But the critical point here, which Scott made the emphasis, and it also has a lot to do with Ukraine. It's obviously this cabana boy for Miriam Adelson, Marco Rubio. He is not anti-communist family, just his uncle, as is known, was the actually drug dealer. So he is a lot
narco Rubio, we call him.
Yeah. So I mean, the guy, first, he's a lawyer. He is nothing more than, he's not strategist. He doesn't know anything about military. He was the wussy with the silver spoon, born in silver spoon, and he was obviously running the errands for Miriam Adelson and all kinds of neocons. So he is the ideologue primarily, and he wants to establish himself as somebody he is not. He's a boy. Okay, but yes, there are all those ramifications of which also Scott spoke about, legality of things and covert operation. Yes, but we'll have to wait and see. But again, let's imagine they succeed. What's after that? There's a lot of weapons there. And I mean a lot. The population is armed there. What's going to happen? Civil war is going to happen. What's going to happen if the civil war continues and you have people who love nothing more than to kill Americans and kill people who, cooperate with Americans? And as I already mentioned, even Doug McGregor stated there is about 100,000 guys from Colombia who would like to settle some scores, including with CIA. So it's a very complex situation, and I would love to be there. I would like to be there anyway in the middle. So the ramifications and consequences of removing Maduro by whatever means could be catastrophic for both Venezuela. And then again, as I already stated, will they go and do another Vietnam stint?
Can Trump handle that?
So no, the United States is not equipped to handle this. It doesn't have resources. That's the point. Scott correctly stated the only thing they can do is limited, traditional thing, hurl everything United States Navy and Air Force has. And this is like what? United States, by different accounts right now, has about 2,500 available Block 4 and Block 5 TLAMs, Tomahawk land attack missiles. That's not a lot. It's actually very little for those people who do not understand what is going on. Just to give you understanding, famous attack in Syria near Damascus at this building, which was actually 109 Tomahawks and JASSMs. Most of them have been shut down. Hello. So this already a significant part of it. So if people think that it could be sustained, and Scott is absolutely correct, it cannot be sustained. It could be a limited thing, couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and that's it. United States literally begins to run out of munition. But then again, here comes this thing which nobody wants to constantly remember. And this is Prosperity Guardian, which was a catastrophe for the US Navy when they tried to do the same thing with Houthis. And let me tell you, Houthis are much easier targets. You know why? Because Yemen is primarily sand and sandy mountains and dunes and things of this nature. It's a desert, essentially. Venezuela, oh my God. You suddenly have some issues with the even target designation, because it's, Vietnam all over. They can dig in, and you will have to work hard to even identify, and then develop firing solution on any target which is within jungles or crevices of those, incredible mountains there, So, yeah, it's a very difficult proposition. And as a result, could we observe the civil war in Venezuela? Likely. How likely? I don't know. I'm not into the percentages.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when you think about too, it also not just the terrain, and then plus, if you talk about Caracas, like you can't wipe that out completely because the people that you want to be running the country, you know, the wealthy, the opposition, whoever, they need Caracas. You know, it can't be wiped out. You
Well,
can't just
yeah,
wipe out the
and
Caracas city. You can't do
yeah,
that. So it's very, it's not, yeah, it's not so basic or simple.
no,
And I
no,
think
it's not
you
simple
state
at
that.
all.
Yeah.
It's much more complex. Again, as I already stated, than Vietnam. And again, keep in mind, Maduro have been distributing weapons among population for the last several months. They are armed to the hilt there, you know. So, and I'm talking about, it's not some, you know, 9mm, handgun. These guys are carrying AK-47s and K-74s, RPGs, and things of this nature. So, and if the substance hits the fan there, I won't be. I would like to be in the place of their opposition, which of course the United States wants to install, because there will be many people coming after that, and after their families, after
They know where they live. I mean, they've been trying to get power, and I think this is the thing for me, Andrei. As we can close here, your last reaction to this is that for me, the question is essentially, is Venezuela more like Iran or is it more like Syria, in the sense that in terms of resilience? With Syria, we saw how it was degraded and all of this. With Iran, of course, there's not a comparison so much because Venezuela doesn't have the ballistic missile systems, etc., the same way. But in terms of the resilience, if we look at over the years since 1990, 8-9, since Hugo Chavez up until now, we've seen a lot of other Latin American governments not last like this one has. I mean, this government has lasted quite a while. People have continued to vote this government back in, stood by it through coups and sanctions, etc. That to me is a dynamic that says, well, it's more, this situation could be more like Iran in the sense that really difficult to topple, versus Syria, where it was like wait it out, and then boom, the operation to topple it happened. But what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, you are correct. Obviously, we have to keep in mind that obviously majority of population, how large a majority we can only speculate, supports Maduro. And again, as I already stated, there are indications that there are Russians on the ground there. And believe me, they are pretty good. So it's not like it's easy to do. And again, we have to keep in mind what it's going to do to a stance of the United States if Maduro falls. My God, it's very difficult. And again, you cannot even compare. Listen, let's put it this way. These guys there, they're not Arab militaries. You know, they are people with a little, rather significantly different culture, to put it mildly, in terms of their capabilities to be trained as the organized force. And so we have to wait and see. And again, you're not going to get anything out of me because I'm not the connoisseur of the theater there. But I know one thing, God forbids, if a couple of those, good Lord, Su-30s pop up out of nowhere carrying KH-31s with a range of about, they have the latest version of a range of about 280 kilometers and Mach 3.5 to 4, they're not going to be intercepted. And the salvo, single salvo, and you lose a destroyer or you have aircraft carrier hit, that's not going to be good. I mean, let's put it this way.